All right. Greetings and salutations. Had a couple of technical difficulties and was not sure if this was going to work. If you're joining this right now, then welcome. Hopefully, you just came back from watching a pretty nuts game. The Packers, I thought they were going to hang on and win. They come out and they look absolutely dominant. I'm thinking that they're a team that could, make a run here in the NFC. Their passing game was rolling. Couldn't quite get their run game going, but it didn't look like it mattered early. And then in the second half, they just completely fell apart. And then the other side of that is Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears. Not only are they here, I don't want to overreact to one game or one season, but it kind of feels like they're here to stay. While you're here, before we get into what we just watched and the Panthers Rams game, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, like the video, and just get active in the comments. Really appreciate everyone who's subscribed thus far. We're almost up to 1,000 subs, and this channel has only really been posting videos for the past handful of months. I do a lot of fantasy football content, but as much as I like fantasy football, I love the actual NFL, and I figured since fantasy is kind of done, let me just kind of dabble with regular game reaction videos. So that's what we're going to do today. And I think I want to start by talking about the difference that 1 year can make. And that's with Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears. If we pull up Chicago Bears season by season results, list of Chicago Bears seasons. Last year, they won 5 games. Actually, here, I'm going to go. The last time they won the division was 2018, and that was the year of the double doink. They had Matt Nagy that year, won Coach of the Year. They won 12 games that year. If we go back to 2013, which is the year before I graduated high school, from 2013 on, here are their wins season by season: 8, 5, 6, 3, 5. That 1 year in 2018 when they won the division, 12, 8, 8, 6, 3, 7, 5. And then this year, 11, and they just won their 12th game of the season. That means in the past 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, in the past 13 seasons, they've had a losing season 11 times. 11 times. In Ben Johnson's first go round being a head coach, not his first year with the Chicago Bears, his first year as a head coach, he brings a team to an 11-win season. After what we saw with Matt Eberflus, five wins. And look, I know he did a good job addressing the offensive line. You know that he's a pretty brilliant play caller, and he invested in players in the draft accordingly, right? He drafted Colston Loveland, who I'm not sure if you saw the stat on the banner during the game. He's the first rookie tight end with over 100 receiving yards in a playoff game since 1988. He's going to be a stud. Luther Burden, he looks like the real deal. He's going to be a stud. DJ Moore's under contract. Cole Kmet's under contract. They just signed a bunch of linemen. Excuse me. And Caleb Williams, although he is flawed and kind of feels like maybe he lacks some touch on some deep balls, he has some skills that most quarterbacks in the league don't have. And he has an arm, like just pure arm talent. It's got to be top 3 in the entire NFL. And I just think coaches get a lot of blame a lot of the time. Like, I think most fans, like, I used to coach high school basketball as an assistant, middle school as a head coach. But like, just being a fan growing up, you hear people talk about all the time, like, oh, they need to fire this coach, they need to fire that coach, like this guy needs to go. And a lot of times they're right. But when you get the coach right, you really, really see a difference and feel a difference. Think about this last rookie draft class, right? Caleb Williams, Drake May, Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix Jr., JJ McCarthy. The guys that we feel good about, or the teams that we feel good about, are the ones that have a quarterback who showed promise and a coach we know is legit, like the Patriots. Drake May has shown more than promise. He's an MVP candidate. Not sure if he's going to win it or not, but you can definitely make a case for him. And Mike Vrabel, who the Tennessee Titans, they just have to be. I don't know how anyone in that organization respectfully takes themselves seriously after that transaction. And I know maybe there was some stuff going on behind the scenes where he was tough to work with, or maybe he just kind of collided with people in positions of power. To let a guy like that walk, it has to be egregious. And I have a hard time imagining it being that egregious. Bo Nix, I'm not the biggest Bo Nix guy, but he's shown flashes and he has Sean Payton. Who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Caleb Williams, right? He has some flaws, but he's shown some real flashes. And then on the other hand, let me move this out of the way. Didn't realize that was there. And then he has Ben Johnson, who's clearly a stud. I'm curious to see, and I would be curious to hear how the average Washington Commanders fan feels. And I think if you were to ask them, I don't think they'd feel very good. They don't have their second round pick this year. They don't have their fourth round pick this year. Jaden Daniels, for as amazing as he was as a rookie this past year, could not stay healthy. How much are you into your head coach, Dan Quinn? Would you replace him for one of these like free agent coaches? Like, I think if you can nail the head coach and the quarterback, you're in a really, really good spot. And this is common knowledge. I'm not some pioneer saying this, but I think it's pretty clear that's exactly what the Chicago Bears have done. On the other side, the Green Bay Packers, I'm not sure what's going to happen with Matt LaFleur. I know a lot of the reports leading into this game was that he was coaching for his job this season. He did make the playoffs. Obviously, losing Micah Parsons sucks. Other injuries happen. They were pretty banged up. Josh Jacobs clearly was not the guy we've been used to seeing down the stretch. But any decision they make on their future, where they want to go with the coaching staff, if they want to retain LaFleur, who I would not let him walk just willy-nilly. I think he's a really good coach, clearly a pretty gifted play caller. You're going to need a 48-hour cool down period after this one, because if you're a Packers fan, you're just absolutely gutted right now. Like, you were up 21-3 with 2 seconds left, getting ready to kick a field goal. And that's where part of my brain goes. This was leading into halftime, up 21-3, 2 minutes left in the half, or 2 seconds left in the half, like positioned to kick a field goal, and you miss that. Second half begins, your offense just can't get going. It looks like you're walking in quicksand. Average like 3 yards per play or less for most of the second half. And then even though Chicago is doing their best to kind of fight and scrap and get back into the game, you have multiple opportunities. You miss an extra point. You miss another field goal. You look up, all of a sudden, that's 7 points that you left on the board. But if we're going to continue to go down that path of hypotheticals, like if they would have made those kicks, like we also need to go down the hypotheticals. What if that Christian Watson fumble goes out of the end zone instead of onto the ground where Romeo Doubs recovered it? Or what if the fumble that the offensive lineman had, who had a vicious truck stick, when Jordan Love dropped back in his end zone and threw it to Big Stanky, whoever that tackle was, and that guy was running down the field. At first, I was like, was that guy eligible? Like, did Jordan Love just, like, is that a safety? Turns out he was eligible. But when that ball popped out, that could have gone to the Bears very easily. And then there was another fumble on the Josh Jacobs kickoff return, who, like, I get he's a good player, but Al Michaels said that was his first kick return of his career. And like all ideas are good ideas unless they don't work, right? And I know he brought the ball out pretty far, but to get that ball punched out, that could have gone the Bears' way. So part of me kind of feels like bad for the Packers because of those 3 kicks. Like, if you just make those 3 kicks, you win the game in theory. But another part of me doesn't feel bad because you had 3 fumbles all fall your way, where if one of those doesn't, the game probably looks dramatically different. So kind of got to feel like it's just, I don't know, like back to the drawing board for the Packers. If we look at the Packers season by season results, like they've always been good, especially in my lifetime. Like I can't remember a time when they weren't good, and maybe that standard, maybe it's so high that maybe they're okay letting Matt LaFleur walk. Like this is from 2009 forward. Here's how many games they've won every single year since 2009. 11, 10, 15, 11, 8, 12, 10, 10, 7, 6. That was in 2018. 2019, 13, 13, 13, 8. And then the past 3 years, 9, 11, and 9. The past 3 years, 2023, they beat the Cowboys 48-32 and then lost to the 49ers 21-24. Last year, they lost at the Eagles 10-22. And then this year, their season ends on the road again against the Bears 27-31. They are the youngest team in the NFL, if I remember correctly. That was a commonly repeated stat throughout the year. Obviously, they're going to get better. They do a really good job identifying, drafting, and developing talent. Romeo Doubs, this was his last year in Green Bay, probably. I know they gave Christian Watson a little 1-year extension when he was rehabbing. They drafted Matthew Golden in the first round. Jaden Reed's a pretty good player. What's his contract situation look like? Jaden Reed. Is he a free agent after this year? No, he has 1 more year left on his contract, but he's pretty cheap. He makes $2 million. And Josh Jacobs, he's probably not quite at his peak, but he's still a pretty good back. They're going to get Micah Parsons back. They're going to be really good. I think for the Packers, it's just down to, like, you have your quarterback. Malik Willis looked pretty dang good. He's going to probably start at least a handful of games next year. I'm not sure if he'll be a full-time starter, but I'm not going to rule that out. Do you want to run it back with Matt LaFleur again after finishing as a 7th seed 3 straight years, playing a road playoff game 3 straight years, and then I think if you lose this game to the Cowboys or you lose this game to the Seahawks or the Rams, it doesn't quite carry the same sting that this one does. Like, you just lost to the Chicago Bears, who we just went through their season-by-season records. Lately, they have not been like any sort of formidable foe. Like, this is a team 1 year ago that won 5 games. And you just blew an 18-point second-half lead. Like, this is one that's going to be like really tough for them to stomach. And again, if Matt LaFleur is going to survive this, it's going to be because they waited a couple days to make a decision. And obviously, I'm no insider. I don't have any information on what's going through their mind right now, but I would imagine they're thinking pretty long and hard right now about what they want to do going forward, because it kind of feels like they're just running the same thing back over and over again. Now, we can always play the hypothetical and go, if they were healthy, if they had Micah Parsons, like, they probably win this game, and I would probably agree with you. Are we gonna punish Matt LaFleur for that, for his player not being available? Like, I'll hear that argument. I would be curious. I don't think there's many ties between John Harbaugh and people on the Packers. I don't know what those trees look like. Maybe there are some connections there that I'm not wary of. I would be curious to see if they would spin the tires and reach out to him and see if he'd be interested in being the next coach of the Green Bay Packers. Because if he is interested, I think this might be a point where Green Bay is willing to pivot off of Matt LaFleur for Harbaugh. And a big part of that is also from John Harbaugh's perspective, how appealing are the other jobs? Like, this is assuming that John still wants to coach. The Giants with, is it Joe Shane as their GM? Not sure if John would want to go there. Miami, no GM. He'd probably get to pick the GM, but that's a pretty rough roster. You don't have a quarterback. Sounds like a pretty big and long rebuild. The Cardinals, John is not going to go coach for the Cardinals. He has way too much self-respect. That organization has kind of been a joke for like you want to avoid that dysfunction. The Raiders, similar story there. I know Tom Brady's there. I know John Spytek's there. They're viewed as pretty high-level guys. I don't think that he's going to want to go there. What are the other openings? The Titans, same story. Like the more I think through this, if John Harbaugh is going to coach in 2026, I think the Packers have to at least sit and think about entertaining that possibility, which would be insane because then Matt LaFleur would become the most coveted coach. And I think Mike McDaniel, and Matt LaFleur, a lot of people might see them similarly. I think Mike McDaniel could end up being a good head coach one day. I think he's a really good offensive coordinator, like an elite play caller, play designer, and he'll have his pick of the litter. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. If he went to Detroit with Dan Campbell or he ended up going to the Eagles and fixing their offense, I think that would be incredible to watch. But I think Matt LaFleur there's no question in my mind he will get another shot as an NFL head coach if this is his last game there. Moving on to the Panthers and Rams game. And this is the best thing about the NFL. This, like any given Sunday, I know it's Saturday, but any given Sunday, like that truly holds. And this is a game that Vegas had pegged as a 10.5 point game. Everyone thought it was going to be a blowout, myself included. The game was starting and the Rams went up 7-0 really early after the Panthers went for it on fourth down and didn't get it. Easy touchdown, Puka Nacua, reception, touchdown reception. And we're like, hey, this game might be over pretty dang quick. But it wasn't. And after that first touchdown, I was starting to think of what my take would be on the game. And I was thinking, man, this is kind of the worst case scenario for the Panthers. You win the division only because your division sucks. You go 8-10 this year. You're going to be picking around 20. I think their pick is 19th. So it's a late-ish pick. And you have just a ton of holes on your roster, like all over the place. And when that's the case, you want to load up on draft picks, ideally high in the draft, so you can swing and hit on those picks and fill those holes. And part of the ironic part about that whole dynamic is Jalen Coker, who kind of had his coming out party on national TV tonight with 2 touchdowns, a bunch of big time catches. He wasn't even D1. He went to Holy Cross, where I did a little bit of like just baseline research, broke a ton of records over there, was huge tonight. He was undrafted. The 2 receivers that the Panthers have drafted the past couple of years, Jonathan Mingo was 39th and Xavier Legette was 32nd. They spent 2 top 40 picks on those 2 receivers, and the undrafted guy is the one who looks legit. I think Ted McMillan is legit. Rico Dowdle, think this was a 1-year deal for him. Chuba Hubbard's under contract. I think he's a pretty good dynasty buy for those of you who play dynasty fantasy football. I think he could be a pretty cheap buy right now. I just think, like, if this game changes your opinion on Bryce Young, then this is good for the team culture. They competed in the playoffs. They can look at themselves in the mirror and hold their heads high. They can say that they belong against the Rams, who have been sputtering lately. Like, if you think Bryce Young's your guy, I think this season's a massive success because you want those reps. You want to show up and feel like you're a winner, right? And even though you lost a playoff game, if I told any Panthers fan before the season started, you're going to win your division, and Bryce Young is going to throw a beautiful ball to the left corner of the end zone to take a lead against the LA Rams in the playoffs, you would take that and do a backflip because of how happy you were about it. So in that vein, this season was a success for the Panthers. But if you don't believe Bryce Young is a franchise quarterback, and although he had some really nice moments tonight, I don't think one game is enough to sell me on it. This season kind of feels a little empty. in the sense that they're not going to have as high picks to reload their roster with. And maybe that works out in the sense that you get one more year out of Bryce next year. And then if you guys aren't any good, because they're going to have a first place schedule now because they won the division, next year's quarterback class, we hope, has better prospects in it. I don't think I would be in the business of giving Bryce Young a contract extension next year. I would not hate the idea of picking up his fifth-year option. I think that's justifiable. Honestly, I would play that up. Like, how late into the season can you go before picking up a player's fifth-year option? I think it's the end of the season. The fifth-year option NFL rookie contracts can be exercised by teams before the it's before the start of the player's fourth season. Yeah, honestly, I don't think I would pick up the fifth-year option. I would let the year play out, and if he shows that, like, if they're good, like if they can win, they don't even have to be good. If they can win 7 to 10 games next year, then yeah, I give Bryce Young a contract extension. But if I would by no means be working out the details of a long-term extension with Bryce Young right now. I was writing down some notes earlier. I have it on a notepad out in my living room. He has failed to throw for 200 yards in 70% of his games. I believe this year he only had 2 or 3 games over 200 passing yards. He did that today. And look, passing yards is not the end-all be-all indicator of how good you are as a quarterback, right? If that were the case, then Jameis Winston on the Buccaneers would be the greatest quarterback of all time. But I just think his throw to Coker in the end zone was really good. I think him and Leggett have some real chemistry. But he does not show up consistently enough for me to want to put my future in his hands. And I know that there's a lot of people out there who are going to say, well, look at Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith. They had really rough starts to their career. And when the team that drafted them let them walk, they wound up turning out really good. And I just think for every Sam Darnold, Geno Smith, and Baker Mayfield, there's Zach Wilson, Anthony Richardson, Kenny Pickett. Like, the list goes on and on. Trey Lance. And I think a big part of why the Panthers could be getting themselves into a lot of trouble with a contract extension here is how much they gave up to get him. And we just saw the difference, right? We just saw Caleb Williams, who wound up being the pick that Carolina would have had. It's a pick that they gave up to the Bears because they were so bad Bryce Young's rookie year. No one, like my grandma, does not watch football. She could watch Bryce Young and Caleb Williams play and tell you with conviction who the better player is. And I know that's not a debate. Like, that ship has sailed. We know that was an awful trade. But when you make a trade like that and you invest so much into this player, you almost like need that player to succeed to justify that decision. Now, I don't know if their GM is still there, the guy who made the pick. I know the head coach isn't still there. I do think Dan Canales deserves a little round of applause for the season he had. Again, I know 8 wins isn't groundbreaking, but if you win a division and you hold Sean McVay, Matt Stafford, and the Rams to like that close of a game, I do think you deserve some credit there. I just would not be in the business of giving Bryce Young a contract extension unless he kind of runs it back this year and shows more growth and improvement. I think giving him an extension would feel like a massive, massive settling. On to the Rams. They haven't been playing great lately. I know they lost to the Falcons. They had to come back against the Cardinals. They lost to this Panthers team a couple of weeks ago. Clearly, that loss they had to Seattle where they were up 24 and they blew it, that kind of disrupted their mojo. Like, they haven't felt like quite the same team since then. But even with his finger, Greg Olsen was harping on it all game. Like, Stafford clearly wasn't himself after that happened and maybe hasn't been quite himself recently, even though he torched the Cardinals. I'm not going to count this team out. I'm not going to like sit here and anticipate them losing. It's going to be either them or the 49ers in Seattle next week, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just not like it's cliche, but it's any given Sunday, man. You have maybe the MVP, you have maybe the best coach in the league, one of the best in Sean McVay, and you have a pass rush who's shown like you can get in Sam Darnold's face and you can fluster him and he'll give you a couple freebies. And the reason the Seahawks looked so damn dominant against the Niners last week was because it looked like their running backs were like Adrian Peterson and CJ2K. Like they just would get whatever they wanted on the ground. And Sam Darnold, if you're just asking him to hit layups and then hit the occasional deep crosser or get JSN schemed open, like he can do it. I like Sam Darnold. I'm not someone who dislikes Sam Darnold. I'm a believer in Sam Darnold, but like, let's be real. If you're asking him to throw the ball 40, 50 times and you get pressure in his face, like most quarterbacks, like he's shown to be maybe not the best decision maker when the wires up here start to get tangled. And so although the Rams have not looked like contenders the past month or so, they have the players and they have the pedigree and they have the coaches. And I think they have the front, the pass rush. Their secondary is concerning. Kind of like a wet paper towel. Just kind of anything gets through it. But I'm not going to count this team out. I'm just not going to do it. Now for tomorrow's games, we can touch on those real quick. Really good day of football. Noon, we got Buffalo and Jacksonville. I'm going to take the Bills, even though the Jags have won 8 straight. It just kind of feels like to me, it's got to feel like do or die right now. Like this has to feel like an opportunity on a silver platter. If you're a Bills fan, and I told you before the season that the Bengals wouldn't be in the playoffs, the Ravens wouldn't be in the playoffs, the Chiefs wouldn't be in the playoffs. In the first round, you were playing the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like you'd be like rubbing your hands together, tucking your napkin in, like grabbing your fork and your knife and like, hey, sign me up. Let's go. But now you got to go into Jacksonville. I can't see the Bills losing this game. I can imagine the Jags who have looked really good. Like Liam Cohen's an absolute stud, deserves consideration for coach of the year. I can definitely envision the Jaguars winning this game, but I think for the Bills, like there has to be a sense in that locker room that like, hey, like if we are who we think we are, if we are worth like what we think we're worth, like we have to win this game. And I don't think that is going to come from a fear, like a point of fear. Like that has to come from a point of belief from them. And look at the guy leading them. You got Josh Allen. And in any one-off game, if you need one guy to do their job and uplift a team and put a team on their shoulders and carry them to the finish line, I think Josh Allen's got to be the guy you choose. Like full stop. So I'm going to pick the Bills in that one, even as underdogs. 3:30, after I'll get a little morning walk in, get some coffee, nice big breakfast, hopefully. And then, lunch right after that game. And then a little post-lunch full sitting on the couch. We get to watch Shanahan go against Fangio. And then we get to see if Robert Saleh can – it's honestly not a terrible matchup for the Niners. Their defense has been terrible. They've been getting carved up. But with how bad the Eagles' offense has been and how dialed Robert Saleh has been all year, I don't think it's a terrible matchup. I think – kind of a popular way to defend the Eagles this year has kind of been to make Jalen Hurts pick you apart. And I think that's what they're going to have to do. I don't think the Niners have the bodies to just put a hat on a hat. Like I think they're going to have to send a lot of pressure. And I think Jalen Hurts is going to have to make a lot of big time throws. And I think if you're the 49ers, you're okay going down with Jalen Hurts just slicing and dicing you. Like if that's how you lose with the way this defense has looked, or with the way this Eagles offense has looked, I think you you hold your head high no matter how this goes, considering all the injuries the Niners have had. I think I read something that the past 3 times the 49ers made the playoffs, they've won 2 games. Like Shanahan's been in these spots before. He did just get embarrassed in front of a national TV audience against the Seahawks last week. You got to think that he's going to bring his A game, and like don't get it twisted. Like everyone's bringing their A game. No one's mailing it in this week, but I have way more faith in the 49ers coaching staff than I do in the Eagles coaching staff. Is that going to be enough to offset the clear personnel mismatch? Logically, I don't think so, but feasibly, could it happen? Yeah, I do. And then the Sunday night game, Chargers and Patriots. I don't know what you guys think, but I think Mike Tirico and Chris Collinsworth is probably the best 1-2 play-by-play color crew in my lifetime. Like I love both of those guys. I think Mike Tirico is generally loved by just about everybody, but Chris Collinsworth pretty polarizing. People seem to hate him or love him. Like I love both those guys, and I kind of wish we were getting Niners Eagles in that spot, but I'm totally okay with Harbaugh and Herbert versus Vrabel and May. I think that's going to be a pretty good game. I was reading an article on The Athletic, and they were talking about just picking the games. All 10, this shocked me, all 10 of The Athletic's football writers who were interviewed for this article, all 10 of them picked the Patriots. And I get it. They're at home. They've looked really good all year. The Chargers they're kind of putting together this like scrapbook of banged up players they bring into this game. I just don't see this being a blowout. And maybe all 10 of them think that the Patriots win a close one. They're 3.5-point favorites. I just think that Justin Herbert in this spot feels like he has a lot to prove. People have been kind of harping on him. They blew that game against the Jaguars a couple of years ago. He threw 4 picks against the Texans last year, although I think 2 of those bounced off his receivers' hands. That seems to get lost when we talk about Herbert's interceptions last year against the Texans. Drake May has never played in a game this big in his life. Like he wasn't playing in big-time games at North Carolina. This is his first NFL playoff game. It's Sunday night, the biggest stage. And I believe in Drake May. I'm not saying Drake May is going to fold or not show up, but like just like Justin Herbert's had his moments where he's kind of shrinked in the playoffs, like it can happen to anybody. So 3 really good games tomorrow. We'll dig into Monday night on a different day, but I'm really excited. So again, if you're watching this for the first time, I appreciate you checking me out. I'll probably go live again tomorrow after the Patriots Chargers game. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Thank you guys again for tagging along, and I hope you guys have a great evening. Peace.